I'm Jessica Lally. Welcome to Aussie Wristwatch. Today I thought I'd delve into something a little bit different. As you know, I am an avid watch enthusiast. I'd love to be a collector one day. I am also a watch novice. So whilst I consider myself a big watch fan over the years, I haven't known very much about the intricacies of watches or brands, or even, for example, the whole Rolex situation. All of that stuff is very new to me this year. And I thought today we could delve a little bit, a layman's exercise, if you will, into the current situation with Rolex and the prices, particularly in the grey market. Now, let's jump in shortly, but before we do, a couple of things. Please do me a favor, hit the like button. You know you want to, and also subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I know it's very cheeky of me to ask up front like that, but I'm having a great time, and I really rely on you guys to help me out with the algorithm gods that are YouTube. Okay, let's roll. All right, so today I thought I'd just delve very quickly into the current situation on Rolex and the grey market and prices. There's been a lot said and speculated about whether they've crashed. I think perhaps not. A couple of things to please note. I am not a watch expert, just an enthusiast. I love them. And I'm definitely not an economist or a financial advisor. So do not take anything that I say as advice. Do not follow my advice and go out and buy 10,000 Rolex watches. Let's just have a little bit of fun and delve into the information that I've been able to find on the internet as an informed consumer. So I guess we've all seen the extreme rate rises, or costs I should say, with Rolex. And in particular, maybe the last 12 months, they've gone absolutely gangbusters. Now, we know that's driven by a strong reputation. We know that's driven by supply and demand, and we know that's driven by exclusivity. We've probably seen my Rolex rant by now, where I had a good whinge, and I was pretty whiny, yes, about an experience I had in the store, which is separate to the fact that I understand fully about supply and demand, exclusivity, and all of those elements. And also the game that some of the ADs make you play with, you know, buying into all of that by purchasing other watches and other items from them in order to get priority on their list. Whatever the case may be, I don't have a problem with that. I'm just not going to play that game. I'm also probably not going to go over to the grey market and buy. I'll either just sit and wait or just not have the watch. Now, in fact, more power to a company who can create that vibe and exclusivity around their product. I think it's pretty awesome. The marketing around that is spectacular. COVID was the other factor that played into this. So I know if you've tried to buy a car, like a motor vehicle, in the last 12 months, and you wanted a new one, good luck. It's kind of like buying a Rolex, right? Like it's impossible. Or it's a little bit different to a Rolex, because usually you go on a list and you know you're going to get the car eventually. It's been ordered and it's coming, but it's not coming for like 12 months. That actually happened to my wife with an Audi. But they were super upfront about that. It just kept getting pushed out now because there's a crisis with chips and all that kind of stuff. And it's even happening with like Toyotas and other high volume cars. And so that pushed up the secondhand car market, as makes sense, right? Supply and demand. So COVID's kind of thrown a little spanner in the works, so to speak, about things that would already be difficult to get or have and cost money because of that. Adding that in, the COVID factor has made them rise even more, which is where we find ourselves with Rolex. But like every bull run, because this is kind of what it's been, they do often come to an end and they're not sustainable in the long term. And look, it appears, at least to me, who's the novice finance person, not a proper finance person, that we're getting a little bit of a correction, if you will, around Rolex prices. Now, I'm going to explain that a little bit more to you. So hold your horses before you go out and like buy 10 Rolexes on the grey market. So, okay, a correction does appear to be happening, albeit very small capacity. I mean, the world is fearing recession, which is it's valid. War is happening in Europe, and inflation is almost completely out of fucking control. Without trying to go into the ins and outs of how it actually works from an economics point of view, because I think that might do all our heads in. I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about what's been happening and explain that so you can kind of get a sense of why things have slowed down in the grey market. So inflation at the moment, or at least to June 2022 in Australia, is 6.1%, which is huge, and let me tell you why it's huge. Now, setting aside we had negative inflation during COVID in 2020, which was an anomaly, so just forget about that. Predominantly in Australia, inflation has been pretty steady and pretty low in the percentage points. So in 2012, for example, we had inflation at 1.2%. Now, it fluctuated, obviously, a little bit, but, to within limits of that. December 2019, just before COVID, it was 1.9%. And in the middle of those two dates, so in March 2014, it was 1.2%. So, sorry, 2.9%. Oh, sorry, that's what happens when you don't reference your notes. So in between those figures, 2.9% March 2014. Now, you can see the exponential increases in the grey market up until you kind of reach the inflation impact of the last couple of quarters. And that's where you've seen the slowdown in the prices and the dip. That's the correlation, okay? Economists will, I think, if I've got this right, will probably argue that's a good thing because we want to slow spending, slow inflation, because it's gotten out of hand. That is like the most layman's term explanation of inflation and economics I think you'll ever get, because I'd have to go and read like 10 books to try and understand it and then distill it down into anything else other than that. But that market has been pumping on low inflation for a significant amount of time, in particular the last 12 to 24 months, but very much last year. The COVID sort of impact has hit and put everyone in hysteria about spending. We've been spending like it's going out of fucking style. I myself have been as well. And then inflation's hit, the market has kind of gone, and that's why we've seen this dip. And that's what we're going to talk about now. Ironically, through all of this, I read this and I thought it was hilarious. So the Rolex Daytona, for example, through this period has outperformed the S&P 500. I mean, you understand that that's kind of ludicrous in some respects because it's a watch, but I think it's also pretty cool that it has. So not all watches have reduced. So mainly the ones that saw extreme steep increases in previous months have slightly corrected. Now, they haven't tanked. So let's talk about that. So in June, the Submariner, which is probably, it's regarded as maybe one of the safer bets for investments, took a 2.5% dip, and the GMT Master went down by 3.1%. The popular Daytona, which we just talked about, dipped 1.2%. So that's not huge. Sure, 3% discount on something's great, but when something's up 200% anyway. So when you apply that dip to the overall scheme of things, it's not huge. So does this mean we need to rush out and buy a Rolex? I am, in all honesty, going to leave that up to you, the individual. Just like it is up to the individual whether they want to go into Rolex and play the game, whatever you want to call it. I call it a game. Some people think it's just par for the course, but that's what I mean, right? That's for you to decide. It's just like buying any watch on the grey market. That's for you to decide. Is it a good time to buy? Perhaps. I don't know whether it's completely bottomed out. I mean, markets rise, markets fall. I'm going to put a chart up. You can clearly see we're on a decline here. I don't know whether we're going to level out and then go back up, or whether we've got a little of a ways to go. The charts do see a significant dip, but over a period of time, it's a small percentage drop. It's not ginormous. It's not 10%, 15, 20, 30%. Then I'd probably be saying, yeah, because I'm going to go out and buy one. Like, if that was the case, to be all, you know, if I'm just being honest with you. But the data is definitely showing us that the peak has left. The peak may very well return, but it is not there right now. It is not the dizzying heights that we saw, you know, 3, 6, 12 months ago. But it's a small dip. So you just got to put a little bit of perspective on it. But, I mean, having said all of this, I had a little flurry into crypto last year just because I like to, like, I buy some proper ASX shares, and I have a little flurry with that in my CommBank account. I don't even purport to be a share trader or anything like that. I'm just trying to learn a bit. So I did the same thing with crypto, just to kind of teach myself what the hell it is, because, you know, not a millennial. And, you know, for the most part, it was going really well, and then it just fucking tanked. I bought, I think it was Luna, and I actually made quite a bit of money off them, but I sat on it, and of course it's tanked now, and they're actually worth 0. So ironically, had I bought a Rolex as an investment, that definitely would have been a better investment than my crypto investments. And for the amount I invested in crypto, yeah, I could have bought at least one Rolex, I reckon, or at least gotten pretty close to it. I definitely would have got a better ROI on a Submariner than I did on my Luna crypto, and actually now my Bitcoin, which I think will come back, but now I'm definitely on the long game. So I don't know, like, honestly, I feel that supply and demand for these products isn't going away. Like, sorry, the supply issue and the demand issue remains. And, you know, these watches are aspirational. People love these watches. I love these watches. I want one of these watches. You know, like, I love the history and the ingenuity behind them. And I know there's so many other fabulous watches out there, which I also want, you know, which is why I'm happy to wait. But because there are people like me out there who really want them, like, the demand is going to be there. So are they going to tank fully? I don't know. I mean, don't quote me on that, but I just feel like everything swings and roundabouts, right? We might get to a point, like people have told me in the comments, where, you know, they were getting a discount at their AD for a Rolex 10 years ago. Great. But it's going to come back around, as it always does. So maybe the dip isn't fully realized yet, and there are more savings to be had. But it's like everything, it's all a bit of a gamble, and it's up to you to just use your gut and make a call. Yeah, I don't know, but I just wanted to share that. Hopefully, inflation will we're not at the bottom of that one. Hopefully, we're at the top of it very soon, for obvious reasons for all of us. But you know, we're in a slightly funny time, right? So everyone just be kind to each other. Take it easy. Like my video, subscribe so you can come on a little journey with me and forget about real world problems for 10 minutes, 15 minutes every week. Please let me know in the comments your views on all of this. In particular, if you think the Rolex grey market is tanking or not. And whether you're going to go out and buy a watch as an investment, or sit or wait, or you were never going to buy one of these watches anyway because you want nothing to do with them. Thanks. So I'm cracking myself up again, sorry. Thanks again for watching, guys. I love it. I really appreciate the support. Thanks so much. Until next time, stay safe.